thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Meara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. We do not have the beautiful Karen Smith, but I am Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara. And where is that slacker now? Where is she?
I think, like all of us, she's incredibly busy and full on. So we just thought, we haven't had a chance to catch up, and you've been away nearly a week now, and I just would love for you to share a little piece of where you are, what you've been doing. And, it's interesting today, Cindy, because I'm about to lead a retreat for Malini, and here you are in a way retreating over there in New Zealand, and Karen's gone into retreat today after 4 days of workshopping. And I just think the importance of retreat is such a incredibly highly prioritized message around self-care. And I'm not saying you have to travel the world or you have to go to a resort or to do anything to retreat, but one of your favorite ways is actually hiking. And I would just love for you, I haven't heard how it went for you, so you have just completed a beautiful hike that I got to do with my children and brother and his wife just 18 months ago, and I'd just love to hear, what did you think of the Tongariro crossing?
Well, for one, it was tough, I must admit, but in the whole scheme of it, it was beautiful, a very different landscape. The landscape was, volcanic, moon-like, I guess, what you can imagine the moon looks like, the photos that we've seen of the moon. So I believed it had absolute beauty. It was something not to be missed, a challenge, and an opportunity not to be missed. And I think the story behind why we did it is quite amusing. So we travelled with a couple. Their names are Johan and Velna, and we travelled through Africa and Sweden and Denmark and Scotland and Canada and you name it. We like to travel with these guys, and it's probably the only time we ever see them. And we're with them about 6 weeks ago, and my husband says to them, okay, so I've planned our trip to New Zealand. What we're doing is that we're going to fly into Auckland. We're going to drive down to Ruapehu, to the beautiful chateau that's been sitting there for 100 years. We're going to stay in the chateau, and then we're going to do the Tongariro crossing. Now, because I've been clued in by you, Kim Morrison, what the Tongariro crossing was about, and it was, 20-something kilometres, I thought, oh gosh, I've got 6 weeks to get fit. Now, I swim all the time. I'm fit when it comes to swimming, but hiking 20 kilometres up and down Dale through up to 2,000 metres is no walk in the park. And so I started running the next day and swimming harder and walking and running and doing everything I could possibly do to get fit. But, to get fit for 20K is not the easiest thing to do. It's 20K is more a mind thing. And I remember as I'm on my last 3K, I'm going 80% mental, 20% physical. 80% mental, 20% physical, because that's what Kim Morrison tells me every day of my life when I'm struggling with something. She said, it's all about the mind. And so I turned my physical body off for that last 3 kilometres and turned my mind on and realised I could do it. But it is a mind game, Kim, a real mind game to do that amount of kilometres.
Yeah, and I think, it's all relative to the individual as well. So I think for many of us, 5Ks could feel like a marathon. A dear friend tragically lost her leg, and so for her to walk 5 kilometres with her new leg would feel a very long way, as you could appreciate. To me, it always feels like anything over 20 is to me when you're challenging the body, and that's just for me personally. However, put me in a pool and a 300, 200 metre swim would feel like a marathon. So, as I say, it is relative. And In fact, to be honest with you, Cindy, I've always been taught and told by great runners, and especially ultramarathon runners, it's actually 90-10. It is 90% mental and 10% physical. And when you think about it, the body is capable of so many things. And I think the beautiful thing about the Tongariro Crossing is you get such a variety of landscape, which to me is life. I always look at walking, jogging, hiking, being in nature as a metaphor for life. So to me, when I did the Tongariro Crossing, it started off, it was quite cold, it was flat, there was a lot of people at first at the beginning, and then we kind of got into a little rhythm, and then there was this very wide open space as I remember it, and then walking across one of the plateaus where, you know, it just made me start thinking about how many people have walked this path. It made me wonder how on earth, how many millions or maybe even billions of years it's taken for this amazing platform to be created the way we see it, and what animals walked across here. What spiritual ancestry is there in this place? And to me, New Zealand is a very spiritual place, particularly around our culture and tradition, in the same way that you talk about the Aboriginals here. So then you find that you're walking along and you're in your own little world, and then you get to a hill, and at some point on the Tongariro, there's actually ropes to try and pull you up. It gets quite steep at one particular point from memory, and you work hard, and everybody's kind of encouraging each other, and then there's a little bit more talking and a little bit more support of one another to get up there, and from little kids right through to more aged people. And I think it's at around that point that you really start to really think of us all as one. It's not like there's a competition. It's not like we're racing. It's not like anybody's trying to beat anybody else. It's say, are you okay? Do you need a hand? And I think even from my ultramarathon days, to be really honest with you, the reason why I loved it so much, I certainly will be honest and say that the pain of it does not entice me, but the elation and the camaraderie and the connection with others and the smile you get from another person who's running a marathon, there's just a knowing. So to be out there on that walk, there is a knowing that we're all going from point A to point B, and we're all going to do whatever it takes. And in the finest words of the Hunt for the Wilder people, no child left behind. There's no one left behind, and we all make sure that we get up and over that hill. And it was just so cool to see my ballerina, who does not like walking, and my son, who would rather have run it, and my beautiful sister-in-law, who was a sprinter, and my brother, who was a top rugby player at one point, just all of us finding our own rhythm. And then you come up over that hill and you make it, and the view, I will never forget that view, standing at the top of that first peak. And then you look down, and you come across a couple more, rises, and then there's these two glacial lakes, just the most aqua blue green kind of color you can imagine, and in the middle of nowhere, and there's not very many trees, and you have to go to the loo wherever you can find a place to go to the loo. And I don't know, that's where I really got into my jar of almond butter and started just snacking on my almond butter. And I don't know, and then it kind of flattens out, and then you do a couple more rises. And then what really fascinated me was that you knew you were on your way home when the landscape started to change. Like there was more flora and fauna, and there was an intensity and excitement building amongst people. And to be honest with you, we ended up jogging the last kilometre, I reckon, because you just knew home was close, and we were hungry, and we were dying to get into our camper van. So, I liken any hike or walk or anything that feels challenging to somebody as a metaphor for life. There are highs, there are lows, there's camaraderie, there's aloneness, there's emptiness, there's vastness, there's compaction, there's contraction, and there's expansion, there's beauty and there's ugly. It's just, and I think if I was to really be honest, Cindy, is that's how I see hiking. Did I explain it well?
Oh, I thought you explained it absolutely beautifully. I was sitting here going, sometimes I can't explain myself and why I love to get out into nature and why it's so important for me to get out on a trek or a hike. But you did that absolutely beautifully, because that's how you feel. It's a range of emotions, a range of feelings, a range of scenery, a range of everything that you have especially when you do the Tongariro Crossing, because it is so many contrasts in it. So, yep, well explained, and that's how I felt the whole way through that whole crossing. You know what got me is those lakes were just stunning, and I had to touch them because I thought they're hot. They've got to be hot. I'm going for a swim. I really thought they were going to be hot.
I know.
Because you're in where there's steam vents and they're hot.
They're freezing.
They're freezing. So I went, maybe I won't swim. Bummer. But I really thought if I was alone, I would have just jumped in one of those for a little bit of time. So yeah, it was lovely, the Tongariro crossing, and to do it with Howie and Johan and Valna was wonderful. And it was one of those days where it was rain before and rain after that day, but that was the one day that it was sunny and clear, and we could see for hundreds of kilometres. We could see Mount, I think it's Egmont. You would know better than me, Kim, but you could see that mountain that's over by the coast. You could see that. So we were very fortunate. And I remember when we arrived into Auckland, we'd driven hours to get to Ruapehu, to the chateau. We slept a couple of hours, and we had this opportunity to walk this wonderful walk, and it was our only opportunity. And sleeping only a couple of hours, just arriving, having a difference in time and everything like that, we could have gone, oh no, we're not going to do it, we're too tired. But it's just so exciting when you get there and nature calls, and I'm not calling about that nature, I'm talking about, that hike is calling, and the opportunity that you take at that time. And if we didn't take that opportunity, I would not have been able to talk about that today and not get excited about our trip to New Zealand in October, where we won't only be walking one day, but we'll be walking many days. And what was interesting is that I remember having a conversation with somebody on the Tongariro crossing about walks. And I said to this woman, I said, oh yeah, we're walking some Charlotte Pass in October. And she knew exactly, she had walked it. She says, oh my gosh, it's the most stunning place that you will walk. It's magnificent in every way. So that got me excited. I went, right, I'm walking this. I've got 20K to go. And I'll be in readiness for our October one. And I'll keep myself fit and keep going. So yeah,
it's such a gorgeous thing, and I think you just touched on something that I think is really important. We can make so many excuses not to do things. It's raining, it's wet, we don't fly until late, we don't get there, it's too early, won't have enough energy. And I just want to ask you, I know you had all of those reasons probably not to do it. I'm lucky for you, got a day like we did. It was so extraordinary. But I just want to say to you, there's a really important point you just made there. When the opportunity arises, are you somebody who goes, oh, I can't? And it's so easy to let it go. Each day that goes by, again, this is another metaphor. When an opportunity comes up, are you somebody who grabs it with two hands, or are you somebody who doesn't see the magic in taking an opportunity? So I'm so glad you did it, because I've been dying to share the experience with you. But I'm just wondering, I don't know whether or not you can give me a little bit of a rundown. You said you were with Johan and Valna, and I don't know if you're aware or not, but we've had quite a few emails from people asking about Africa. Did you happen to talk about Africa at all?
Oh yes, we talked a lot about Africa, because whenever we whenever we are with Johan and Valna, we're traveling. That's what we do with them. We hardly ever see them outside of travel. So we did talk about it, and they've just been to Africa, and they were really looking at how they were going to do our tour. They'd already been to many of the spots, but there was one spot they did not talk to me about, and that was the mobile camping, which is going to be in Botswana. And we talked about that experience and what that's going to be like. And you should have seen their eyes light up as they're talking to me about going on a trail with the Kalahari Bushmen. So you know what I'm like about cultures, Kim. I love cultures. And when I was in Namibia with Johan and Valna, we went through a riverbed for quite a long time looking for the Himbas living in their natural areas without Western people bringing food or anything like that. These guys lived way out in the bush, and the only way to get to them was through these riverbeds at 10 kilometres an hour for many days. So that to me was really exciting. So we'll be doing the same thing in Botswana, but with a different tribe. And this tribe is the Kalahari Bushmen, who I think a lot of people have heard about, and how they survive in the bush and in the desert. The Kalahari is a desert, and how do they survive in it? So we get to go on walkabout, as we would talk about in Australia. We get to go on walkabout with the Kalahari Bushmen. They also linked me to an Instagram page which will show people who are either coming with us or who are thinking about coming with us as to what this experience is going to be like. Now, this is just the time in Botswana. And the group and the page to go to is spelt M for Mary, E, N for Nelly, O, _ A, _ K, W, E, N for Nelly, A. Now, I'll make sure that I put this in the notes so that everybody gets it. But can I recommend that you actually go to their page and have a look at what our experience is going to be like with these guys. So what you'll see pictures of is you'll see pictures, of course, of elephants and lions and landscapes. And one of the landscapes you'll see is a salt plain, and that's I can't say it really well. Johan says it beautiful, but it's the Mahi salt flat. It's hilarious. But you'll see a photo of camping on that. We'll be doing that. You'll also see the Kalahari Bushmen hiking with women, men, and children, hiking with us. We will be doing that and learning about how they survive in this amazing landscape. You'll also see the tents that you'll be staying in, as well as the people that cook for us and how they cook for us. Everything is cooked on open fires, and it's beautiful foods. And one of the good things is Johan and Valna follow Changing Habits, and they are meticulous about anybody that they put on safari has to be fed the way that basically Changing Habits loves to eat, or Cindy O'Meara likes to eat. So they are aware of our dietary requirements, which is brilliant. And so that's really exciting. And these guys are learning, believe it or not, a lot from Johan and Valna with regards to this is the type of food that we eat. We do not want any of these types of foods in there. Even though they eat bush food, they're trying to do is they're trying to appease the white man's way of eating. But as Johan and Valna know, we don't want them to appease the white man's way of eating. We want to eat the way these people eat. We want to eat the traditional diets, the traditional foods, the foods from the bush, the wild meats, except for Linda. She won't want to do that. And Linda will know who I'm talking about here, who's coming with us. Yeah, we'll make sure there's vegan for you, Linda. Don't you worry. And so I would follow those guys. And the other one to follow is Safari Frank, because it is Safari Frank on Instagram that is created this for us. So Johan and Valna's company is called Safari Frank. I'm so lucky. I get to go with them for free. Well, I got to pay for things, but they just show us the most amazing places. They're South Africans who love the bush and are always on safari looking at local tribes people and understanding their ways. And we are so fortunate that we are able to experience not only different tribes, but different places where we can see animals in the wild, and we get to hike. We'll have people that will protect us as we're hiking. We'll learn how to track. We'll understand spoor. So spoor is poo, and I know we always talk about poo, and imprints of animals and what they are. And if we get to be with Frank, you'll see in Safari Frank, if we get to be with him, he is the best at finding chameleons, which are the most amazing animals. Or I don't know if they're animals or they're part of the insect. I don't know what they are. They're just stunning, these chameleons. So, and he can, because he's really good at reading spoor, he can find animals where other people can't find animals. So we have just, I'm so excited that I had this opportunity to spend time with Johan and Valna since they've created this program for Up for a Chat to really talk about the program. And as I said to Johan, I said, we really want to do a lot of movement. We don't want to be sitting all the time. So one of the things we have changed, and we've changed our experience in Namibia at Fish Canyon. So we will do more hiking, and we will camp out down the bottom of Fish Canyon, as opposed to going down and then coming back in one day. We will actually have the absolute privilege of being down in the canyon, which is the size of the Grand Canyon, with no people. I think that's the most exciting thing, is that we will be where there is no people. It will just be tribes, us, a little bit like Peru, Kim. It was just us and the tribes that were in the Andes, and there wasn't crowds and crowds of people. So it's exciting, really exciting.
See, it is really exciting, and I appreciate that all the thousands of listeners that do download, not everybody can come. What is your suggestion around how to get that same feeling, that feeling of being at one, that feeling of, spiritual connectivity, that sense of being alone and yet completely connected? What would you recommend people to do in their own busy worlds? What are some things that you do to detox from our world, so to speak?
Well, I actually think that they're the basics. It's making sure you have a good night's sleep, making sure you don't have brain fog. And, that's what we do really well at Changing Habits is teach you how to eat well so you can get rid of that brain fog. And I think there's a lot of people walking around with brain fog at the moment, and a lot of people talk about it, or depression or anxiety. And we know that the food that we consume are vitally important for brain health. So that's another thing about, I think, going to the farmer's market, talking to your farmers, having a connection with the land, having a connection with the people you're buying your food from, as opposed to a grocery store. It's about getting rid of chemicals out of your life, like your oils, Kim, to me, ground me. I have different color, different not color, but different blends that I use when I travel, when I hike, when I need something as far as focus. I love focus and clarity. So those are really important to me, as well as eliminating chemicals from my house and creating an environment in my house with plants that I can grow, that produce food, are also important. But then it's about getting into nature, and we can do that anywhere. So I'm in New Zealand at the moment, and I'm sorry for people if I'm sketchy. I'm just not sure if New Zealand internet's as good as Australian. No, only kidding, Kiwis. Only kidding. I'm near.
I'd actually like to say I think it's us. I think it's our internet.
Well, do you think it's yours? I don't know what it is, but I'm near a park.
Fibre optic cable in New Zealand forever, Cindy.
Yeah. Okay. It's Aussies. But I'm near this beautiful park, and there's sheep and there's cows and there's nature, and you can really get into going out, and even in the middle of Auckland, and going into a park. In the middle of Melbourne, Sydney, there are places, or making the effort and driving an hour if you live in the city, and getting out and doing those hikes like the Blue Mountains, or like the Sunshine Coast. We just have to go up to the hinterland, which you're going to today, aren't you, Kim? You're heading up to the hinterland to do your retreat with many of your graduates and people who follow you. I'm jealous. I would love to be there. Yeah. I'd love to be going. I love where you're going. It's just one of the most beautiful places.
And then look, the beautiful thing is, it is a beautiful place. It is a 5-star resort, and I really appreciate not everybody can do things like this, or be so grateful to have the opportunity to do things like this. And I understand not everybody will have the opportunity to go to New Zealand and do the Tongariro crossing, or come to Africa, or come to New Zealand with us at the end of this year, which is why I really appreciate your things on your suggestions on what we can do. And I think as we get into, and it's almost coming into March now, and we're just, the year is ticking by, and I really wanted to hear you talk about this, because I think today's podcast is really, finding a way to check out in order to check back in. And the byline of my retreat, for example, is your elevation may require your isolation. I'll say it again, your elevation may require your isolation. And I think for many of us, if we can just find some time to be alone, to journal, to do the crossword, to walk bare feet on the sand or the grass, to, if you're in the middle of a drought, which I know a lot of people are at the moment, what can you do to have yourself feel connected and have some sense of power, if you like, or some sense of inner power that will help you get through that until the rains come. Or some of our listeners are in the freezing cold and they've been snowed in places. So, what are you doing to warm the cockles of your heart? What are you doing to make yourself feel great and to actually be alive and feel this incredible planet in all her glory and all her magnificence of what she offers us? If we just checked out sometimes to just take notice of our environment, or check out the plants that are growing, or to notice the redness of the dirt, or across the Tongariro Plateau, how black everything, some of those plateaus were, and just really find a place to be okay. Remember, as Karen would always say, there's my business, your business, and universal business. So, we can't help a drought. We can't control the snow. We can't control, the calm waves or the big waves at the beach. That's none of our control. That's universal business. But what I do love, which long hikes and long runs and long endurance events do help you to do, is you focus on the 90% mental and the 10% physical. How am I going to have an attitude around this? What am I going to do to support myself? And one of the things we're doing at the retreat this week is to do our manifestation, which you've taught me, Cindy, and I really want to pass on what you've taught me so that I can, I won't teach it as eloquently as you, but there'll be parts of it that I just think it's really nice to take the time to do your dream journal and just to let go of the everyday pressures and stresses. And I just know that you've got a massive trip coming up and you've been away already, and I know you've done that, but would you agree that doing the Tongariro Crossing for you filled your heart and soul for all the busyness you've had so far, but also for the next 3 weeks? How are you going to look after yourself on the road over the next 3 weeks?
Yeah, good question, Kim. And I think the crossing was a really good start. And it's funny, the last couple of days I've been at Napier at the Art Deco weekend, which is a fabulous weekend. And one of the things I did was I noticed there was an ocean swim. Now, the ocean's a lot colder at Napier than it is in Queensland. But I thought, I'm going to do it. I only did the 300-metre dash with 1920 period togs on and a rubber cap with it's got a chin belt on it. It was just hilarious. But that to me is when I do stuff like that, that's how I look after myself when I travel. Because I found there was a lot of socializing, a lot of cups of tea, a lot of places, you sit and you eat. And I would find myself going, look, that's really nice, but I need to go out and do something else. So I'd go for a bike ride, or I'd go for a swim, or I'd put myself into a challenge of cold water. I didn't want to do the kilometre because I didn't know how I'd handle the cold water. But once I'd done the 300 metres, I went, bummer, I should have done the kilometre. But anyway, but I went swimming the next day. I go walking. I just move away from people. I realised that it's really important for me to have solitude. I can't be with people 24/7. I actually can be with my husband, believe it or not, 24/7, because we both give ourselves the space when we're maybe having a cup of tea together. He'll read the paper, I might do the crossword. But when you're with other people who want to have a chat and they're friends, it's really hard. So I find that isolating myself is a really important thing to do. Eating well, using your oils, making sure I move, sleeping as well as I can, especially when I change time zones. It's really important for me to have my sleeps. I actually time my plane trips so that I sleep, not stay awake. So yeah, I think it's just trying to keep that routine that you do at home, but doing it while you're away. And whenever I get to a place, and I know it sounds funny, I don't leave myself stuff in the suitcase. I take it out so that I can see what I've got. Because being in a suitcase, sometimes you just open it up and you see the top layer and that's the end of it. Just you don't look any further in.
It's so true. It's so true. Tell me, darling, when you're traveling and you feel alone or you can't get the food that you want, how do you keep your mental, how do you keep yourself up so that when you turn up at the event to speak, because that's something that you have to do a lot of, what do you do to actually motivate yourself when you, even on the days that you don't feel like it, like you don't get a choice?
No, you don't. You know, Kim, how we did that dressing, we got dressed up and we put makeup on and we did a little video on it. Do you remember we did that a couple of days before I left?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yes.
That's what I do. That's one of my rituals is I have a shower, I get dressed up, I put makeup on, I do my hair, I make myself look good. Even though I might be feeling a little bit tired, I'll eat protein. I won't eat carbs. I'll put your oils on. I think it's those rituals that I usually do to make myself feel good, that even when you're not feeling good, you still continue to do the ritual and for some reason your brain just clicks in. And it's a matter of you just do it. But it's those little rituals that we talked about in that little video that we did, and I hope maybe you can point people to where that video is, Kim, in the show notes, because I think it'd be good for people to see that. You know, you're not feeling good, but you get up, you have a shower, you do your makeup, you do your hair, you get dressed, you're ready for the day.
Yeah, and I think that's actually on. I've got a free challenge on at the moment if people are interested. It's you just go to www.selflovejump.com, so self-love jump, and it's a 28-day challenge that I've opened up to everybody to see, and it's just 28 days of rituals with me. I'm showing you all the things that I do over a 28 or over each day. I'm just giving you different ideas and different things to think about, so that you can, and you only need 90 seconds to a minute a day to have these ideas. But it's free. I just wanted to help people realize that there is always a way to take care of yourself. There's always a way to check out. There's always a way to elevate your soul. There's always a way to bring you back to the true purpose, your core, your vision, your mission, your purpose. So there's always ways. But sometimes in the day-to-day of busyness and kids and partners and business and career and all of these things, we just seem to forget. And I really wanted to bring out, and why I love this podcast topic today is because, you know, we all think that we have to get away or we have to spend a lot of money to get that feeling. But, you know, on the Self-Love Jump, we've had over 700 people register in it, that you can jump in at any point, share the love. It's, you know, and Cindy, when we got dressed up, I mean, one of our things, we were both tired. You were just about to finish your graduation. I had a day to go before my graduation started, and you know, we do not stop. But I think what keeps us going, apart from the fact that we have a lot of fun, but I think the thing that keeps us going, my love, is the fact that we just really enjoy those rituals of swimming, crosswords, eating beautiful food, going for walks, feeling nature, talking to my plants. I do that often, having a beautiful smoothie with a drop of peppermint in it, feeling it go all the way down. There's just so many beautiful little rituals you can do that connect you back to quietness in the busyness of life. And I think if nothing else, if you can take nothing else from today's podcast, the experience that Cindy had in Tongariro, you know, listen to people's podcasts about where they've been or their journeys, feel someone else's experiences through their eyes. I think that's why I love TED Talks so much as well, because you get to hear something with a new perspective or a new opportunity of learning. And I just think stay active, as Karen would say, stay in the work. Never stop giving yourself an opportunity to learn or to grow or to do something physical.
Yeah. Now, I have a question for you, Miss Kimmy. So you just done, is it 3 or 4 days with your graduates and your HLEs? Is that what you've just done?
Yes, we just did 3.5 days graduated. So they've had 16 weeks of course, online material, all self-care. So my program is a self-care program all around looking after yourself and learning rituals. Of course, the number one modality I tend to talk about is essential oils. So they had that. And in the compulsory part, the magic of my program really comes to life in the live event when we're all here together on the Sunshine Coast. So yeah, we just had that, my love.
And now you've got half a day off. You're doing a podcast with me, and then you're going and doing a 5-day. You're the main person. It's your retreat, 5-day retreat. Am I hearing myself right here?
Yeah. Yes.
I want to know, how are you doing it? Because I know, I do 2 and 3 days, and I don't know how you. After the end of a 2 or 3 day, I'm like going, right, I'm out for the count. But how are you doing it?
Look, I think you've got to remember all our different personalities, and you get fed by your way of recharging is to give a lot, but then you've got to take a lot of time out for yourself. And I don't mean you've got to take months to recover. I just mean probably for however many days you've put into something, I've noticed for you, you need those many days to recover from it or to recharge yourself from it. And that's fairly typical of someone like yourself who does a heck of a lot of research, someone who does a heck of a lot of planning and foresight and leading a big team. Someone like myself, even though, yes, I do a lot of those things, I don't have that left science brain ticking all the time, and my right side gets very, I guess, fed by people. It's not to say by the end of those 3.5 days, and I spoke intensely for the whole time, nearly up. We did have a couple of beautiful guest speakers, but I do feed off people, but I also know that the retreats I put on are what I need. And this retreat is really nature walks, it's beautiful cooking classes, it's having other people lead things. We do these beautiful little self-love rituals. We've got a spa treatment, we've got massages, we've got this gorgeous, we're doing the 5 love languages, we're doing the whole thing around that, we're doing colouring in, we're doing our manifestation journal. So it's all, you could call it 4 days of adult kindy, really. And that's how I love to recharge. I love to share it with people, but I also love to have my alone time when I'm in this thing. So interesting that we design programs that we ourselves, thrive with and enjoy. So yes, I was a little bit tired, but then my children were home on the weekend and they're away, and I've stopped my blubbering now that they're both away during the week. I've got my act together, but that feeds me, and then you running in and seeing me feeds me, and just us sharing a couple of nights together last weekend while we were working. Friendship feeds me, connection feeds me. So I think it's and how could you not be recharged up in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast? I mean, really.
I agree. It's they say there's such an energy in that area. I feel it. But they do talk about the energy of the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. I just listened to what you're going to be doing this week. And why am I going to Cal Jam and not with you?
I know you would love this.
Oh my gosh, would I ever? You make sure next time you do one, you let me know, because I'm going. I'm going as a delegate.
I tell you would love it. Even if you came as a speaker, I could just get you in.
Just one. One speaker's
no, it is
delegate for the rest of the time.
I agree, darling. I agree. And I think what's so beautiful, and even our listeners, the amount of feedback that we get from everybody. And I think just so that you all know, keep your questions coming, because we are going to do a Q&A session next week. So we'll make that next week's podcast. So any questions that you have coming in, we will be doing a Q&A for you guys next week. So I really thought, what I noticed with all the graduates, your graduates last weekend and mine this weekend, there's a lot of fatigue out there. There's a lot of people feeling even though the year started, I've just noticed there's a lot of people, just a little bit lost maybe, or a little bit exhausted already. And Karen's been away doing her Effortless Self, her beautiful free programs that she's offering all around the country. And I think she had nearly 100 people in Brisbane on the weekend. And she's just, I think we all give and want to help so many of our beautiful listeners and people in our tribes. And I think the greatest reminder we get from that is that in order to be the walking, talking example, we too must recharge. And certainly for the three of us, one of our loves is hiking.
Definitely. Definitely. It's a love that we enjoy. We get revived by it.
Yeah.
And the questions, I just want people to know that we do see their questions and we do put it on our agenda to answer. It's just that it's not just up for chat questions that we get. Like you get, Kim Morrison, 28 questions. I get questions from my protocols, from my nutrition program. You get them from your HLE program. Karen gets them, and we don't always get to them straight away, but we try to. Like there's a beautiful question from Lauren Steenfort, and I will answer her. And it was about, what do you do when you're pregnant and you're faced with the whole rhesus thing? So there's those questions. There's how do we use LSA? There's questions on, I'm just looking at some of them at the moment. Vitamin K. There's just non-stop questions from people with regards to how do we deal with life? How do we do that? So I think next week we will be doing our question and answer from and our feedback. I think it's important to do our feedback as well from everybody so that we can address what you're asking us instead of not addressing it. And that's not through lack of trying. We do try, don't we, Miss Kimmy?
Yeah. So I just wanted today's podcast to be short and sharp, let you know how we check in for ourselves, and also to let people know that we will be definitely doing, it might even take a couple of podcasts. We don't mind. Just keep your questions coming because, it's time that we really did answer these things. And it's easier for us, as you say, Cindy, to answer it in this forum than it always is for us to, always write it when we look at how many things we have to write. So I agree, sweetheart.
Okay, wonderful.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, just being in this
and the importance of
just by being in this beautiful land, I'm so excited to hike it in October with you and Karen and all of our people that have booked in. And I do believe we have a couple of spaces left for New Zealand, and the same for Africa. Talking with Safari Frank, Johan and Valna who have done this whole thing for us. That also, and checking in and doing that in 2018, I'm so excited for. I just feel very fortunate that I believe, manifested this. I remember in my manifestation book, I've got all about travel and how I wanted to go to these places. And here we are, Kim. We're doing it.
I know.
And with beautiful people, with just stunning people. Our Peru trip, we've all become friends. And I saw one of the girls from Peru recently, Linda, only about a week ago. And I saw her and I just about cried. It was like home week, just bringing back all of the memories of Peru. So, yeah, it was, it was good.
It's so true. And that's really where we get to, I think, in those community events or doing programs or belonging to a gym or a church or a school group or whatever it is. One thing I really got clear again on the weekend was that it's about being part of a community, a tribe, a cult, a group of like-minded souls. So yeah, that's what we're creating, and then I love it when the three of us come together and combine all of our beautiful tribes. It's just magical. So absolutely right. Get your questions in if you're interested in either the New Zealand trip or the Africa trip with us to hike, and so that you can elevate yourself through the isolation of retreating and getting back into nature, then go to awakenthechangewithin.com and you'll see both beautiful itineraries are on there, and Karen is always at the ready to let people know more information. We did have another beautiful person just sign up on the weekend from New Zealand, so I do think there's a couple of spots left, but they both will book out. So if you are sitting there flirting with the idea, then now's a good time to at least let Karen know that you are definitely on the radar, so that she doesn't miss you. And if you've got any feedback about today's podcast or want to share with us ways in which you like to check out so that you can check back in, then please go to facebook.com/up for a chat, or of course the wellnesscouch.com/up for a chat. And again, please go to either of those places to make sure we can get your questions answered in the next podcast or two, and make it a real Q&A interactive one. And we're really looking forward to that one. Apart from that, though, I just want to say, Cindy, have a beautiful trip. You're going to make such a huge impact over there in America and the UK. What a privilege for us to know you. I know I speak on behalf of Karen and I. I'm very proud of Karen and what she's doing out there in the world with her effortless self programs. And I'm very, very chuffed and want to congratulate all the graduates from both of our programs this weekend and also yours last weekend. So, my final tip, go and frock up, go and put a bit of lippy or a lip gloss on, go and shave the legs, paint the nails, and go out and have a beautiful coffee with a girlfriend, or go out and, make a beautiful meal at home and have some lovely little rituals around that. On behalf of Cindy and I, we just want to say, go away, be part of the ripple effect that's changing the world, and we'll see you next week.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavored to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.